Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and there's so much to go over today. Let's start here. Nick Burafado from Link2, Ripple Private Equity is a unique opportunity for accredited investors to invest in a company with the most compelling XRP use case to date, including cross-border payments, crypto liquidity, and CBDCs with the SEC versus Ripple case in near. Do not wait any longer. Remember, we had the tweets from Stuart Alderati and Brad Garlinghouse saying we filed our final motion. And basically this thing, one way or another, this thing's going to come to an end here in the next, who knows, 1 to 3 months. And it'll be on a dime. Now we know it. Okay. So there was this is from Link2. This is one of my sponsors, by the way. But then there was this. Andrew Zell, this tweet lives rent-free in my head, and it does mine too. This is from Bob Way, who was one of the first 10 people at Ripple. Nice find. This is exactly why the term has become so popular. Once you have atomic settlement via 2 central banks, the game is over. Every other central bank will follow. Otherwise, their country would be at a significant disadvantage. And see, this goes hand in hand with this from Link2. Because remember, to me, in my opinion, and I look, disclosure here, I own Ripple equity on Link2. I own Polysign. I don't know a lot of things, but Uphold's another one I own. And there's a reason I own these things. Polysign Atomic Net has the potential to be the exchange of exchanges, the blockchain of blockchains. It will create a unified platform that links disparate liquidity pools and asset classes across the digital and traditional finance worlds. So let's look at that again. The game is over. Every other central bank will follow. Does my 10-year-old need to come out of retirement and draw you a picture? And by the way, my 10-year-old, he asked me, I'm sorry, excuse me. My 10-year-old, he didn't ask me, but my 10-year-old does not understand my YouTube channel. He does not understand. These kids, they spend tons of time on their iPads and they're always watching all these silly kid YouTube channels where these kids have channels with millions, huge channels where they're just doing silly stuff. And my son's always talking, he's like, Dad, these YouTubers I watch, they get free stuff sent to them. And he goes, you need to tell your audience that I'm into baseball cards and Legos. Because he thinks that my audience would be sending silly stuff like these YouTubers he watches. And he was like begging me last night to ask my audience that. I'm not asking my audience anything about that. I just thought it was a funny story I would tell you. I said, son, my audience doesn't send me anything. I don't want them to send me anything, but it's funny that these kids, the other thing that's interesting is his friends, they come over to my house and they want, you know how you get those silver play buttons when you have 100,000 subscribers. Well, I'm like the only guy in town that these kids have ever heard of that's got one, but they hear about these people, these influencers that they watch all the time with these. Well, mine's like on a shelf in a box in my closet because I don't need, trophies are not what it's about for me. I'm here on a mission, but these kids come over just to stare at the trophy and they want to hold it and look at it. It's like, but anyway, funny stuff. These kids, man, it's like, I'm way too old to be doing this. I'm just doing this. I'm doing this for my children's future at this point. That's the only reason I'm here. And trust me, I don't want to do this forever. I'm going to finish this and hopefully help change the world in a good way. And then I'm ready to just retire and style, be done with all this. Folks, y'all probably are too. Tim Draper predicts Bitcoin will reach $250,000 next year. Despite FTX collapse, the dam is about to break. I like it. Now, this is from Wheezy, okay? This is a great clip because this guy outlines the problems, and Linda P. Jones, she was on fire this weekend, The media didn't miss it. It was intentionally overlooked to support the financial overlords. Look at this.
Now you look at SBF, it's the exact opposite.
This guy describes to you what the problem is in our country. And if it's not fixed, it's the end of our country.
He went to the perfect elite private high school. Then he went to one of the most prestigious elite private universities, MIT. His parents teach governance of all things at one of the most elite liberal institutions in America, Stanford. They are in the establishment of the progressive left. And what happened was he took customer funds and all of this money. He made tens of millions of dollars of political donations. He wrapped himself in this blanket of a progressive left-leaning cause called effective altruism. And all of the mainstream media fell for it and embraced him, as well as some politicians, because it met everything that they themselves also bought into.
Yes.
And now you have this cataclysmic event, a multi-deca-billion-dollar fraud or bankruptcy, millions of customer accounts who are frozen, tens of millions to hundreds of millions to billions of dollars lost and stolen from them. And they refuse to re-underwrite this kid. And the reason is because in order to do so, it's like eating your own tail. And that's why they don't want to do it. And so this is why you have the media basically allowing him to do an apology tour. Now, this is his second time at manipulating them. The first time he was able to manipulate them by basically being one of them. And now he's allowing them and their desire to basically protect themselves so that he can create some kind of a defense for himself. And I just think the whole thing is gross because it misses the entire mood of the nation. This is an enormous financial fraud that was perpetrated on tens of millions of people. And there's no accountability because in order to do so, the media would effectively have to admit that they missed it and they got it wrong. And they refuse to do it. And I think that is the really big problem that nobody is really speaking out about is like, well, if these folks...
It's because we live in the age of lies. The media are liars. All these politicians are liars. All these people, they didn't miss it. They were involved in it. And now they're lying. They're telling lies to cover up the previous lies and cover their butts. These people needed to go to jail, a lot of them.
Are meant to be the last stop to make sure that there's truth and honesty and transparency in society, and you can't count on them. And in fact, they're just going to reflect their own narrative. What is one supposed to do to learn the truth?
Now, speaking of lies, here's one from Forbes Crypto Exclusive. Now, remember, all Sam Bankman-Fried's doing is running around saying, I wasn't involved in Alameda. That was a separate thing from me. Sam Bankman-Fried knew plenty about his Alameda research hedge fund and sent details to Forbes just months ago. So they're calling him out. Then check this out. Remember the other thing that we're being told? These guys didn't even have a board of directors. Well, watch this.
Yo, if y'all did not just watch the Sam Bankman-Fried interview, they did a live interview of this man on CNBC. They asked him, why didn't he have a CFO and a board? Look what he said. And what happened after he came out publicly and said what he said. If y'all don't realize that this is a setup, y'all need to run from crypto because just look at what this guy just said. Oh my God.
If you had no board and you had no CFO, and that should have been a red flag, frankly, for all of us.
So interestingly, in some ways we had too many boards. We had...
Oh goodness. Hopefully we're going to get...
Shut him down.
All right, so we've been listening for the past hour and 5 minutes to an extraordinary interview.
He screwed up.
They had a board.
The former CEO of FTX.
They had a board.
By Andrew Ross Sorkin at the New Book Conference here in New York City.
Okay, now that we know they had a board, the next question is who was on that board? Because I believe who was on the board. Let's come up with a name for this thumbnail. Mystery FTX board. How about that? That sounds good. Because I'll guarantee you The people on that board are this is the equivalent of, that thing with that island and all that stuff. I think this is that on that kind of level. The people on that board, folks, that's the reason you're watching all this try to be covered up, is because of the people on that board. Write it down. I want to remind everybody of something. This is key, and it's very important. ETHgate and FTXgate, they have one thing in common. In both cases, the CFTC and the SEC were not just meeting with them, they were having planning sessions with the people behind both of them, while leaving the rest of the crypto industry in the dark, by design. This is all by design, folks. I don't care what they tell you. ETHgate and this FTX thing were created, the government was involved in them, and it was by design. It was a plan. It was a plan, and they know it. And that's what's going on. Now, look at this clown.
To do everything.
Yes or no? Do you believe you deserve to be punished?
I think about it in terms of having a duty to do what's right and a duty to do everything that I can make up for.
Do you believe that anyone who has hurt someone should be punished? Just ethically, morally, forget about the whole SBF, FTX thing. Do you think an individual who hurt someone deserves in some form, not legally,
Let me answer the question before he answers it in his joke of a way. These people think they're smarter than everyone. These people are arrogant. These people think that they are the elite and that they deserve to be treated one way. That's the reason that it's going on in this country. These people believe they should be treated one way, and you and I are just a bunch of peasants, and they think that that's just fine. And that will be their undoing, is because there are a lot more of us than there are billions of us than them. And the dirt, what the dirty little secret is? That with all their Ivy League degrees and all their stuff, they're not smarter than we are. That's the dirty little secret that they don't, that's the one that they just hate to admit to themselves. But how many times have these people been outsmarted by the Twitter sleuths and been exposed when they have all the advantages? And it's because they've got a smart label, but that doesn't mean they're smart. They're just arrogant and used to getting to do whatever they want and getting away with it.
No, morally, do you think they deserve to be punished?
I think my honest answer to it is
There's a tell.
The thing I feel strongly is that they deserve to have a duty to make it right, no matter what it costs them, as best they can. That is the answer that feels real to me.
Oh, man. I want to throw up. Here, I want to throw up again right here. This was circulating yesterday, I think. I think she might be cutting a deal is what we're looking at here. And I think I saw a BitBoy video where he said that this is Caroline Ellison from Alameda. Okay, now remember, Sam Bankman-Fried's been going out and trying to separate himself I didn't know what was going on at Alameda. That was those people over there. And BitBoy said that she wanted this. That's why she went to the coffee shop, is that she wanted somebody to take a photo like this. And the reason she wanted it to is to send Sam a message saying, I'm lawyering up. You keep running your mouth, I'm going to expose your butt. And to make him nervous that this was planned. That's what he said. So she was at a coffee shop in Soho in Manhattan. Well, Manhattan's ground zero for these regulators and all that. So that's probably, I would imagine she's cutting a deal. This thing also said the general consensus is that Caroline Ellison is likely in New York cutting a deal and cooperating with SDNY prosecutors to roll on Sam. Although it's speculation for now, makes perfect sense. It also corroborates that Sam Bankman-Fried's apology tour is 100% intended to control the narrative, admit criminal negligence, and deny specific intent at all costs. He's trying to minimize prison time, nothing else. Then they say a highly credible source claims that Caroline Ellison is currently being represented by Wilmer Hale, a well-known DC insider law firm. Please verify. Okay? Now, this is something that I think is important that we address right now. We know Warren Davidson here was tweeting the pitiful Maxine Waters tweet where she's saying, "Yeah, Sam, come in and talk to us," and all this, and being all nice as if there haven't been crimes committed here. And Warren Davidson has a problem with it, which he should. But here's what I'm going to have a problem with. If these people like Warren Davidson get up there at this hearing and just make this about a hearing about FTX and don't point at the Maxine Waters of the world and say, "What in the world are you people doing?" They need to literally turn that hearing into a circus. If they don't, they're just being the same old get along to go along guys. And this country can't have any more of that. It's time to viciously go after these people that are doing this, because now they're literally providing cover for what looks like a criminal. They're literally running, Congress people are doing this. And Warren Davidson's on you and the guys that supposedly care about how they're ruining our country by doing this. You can't just sit there and start asking people questions about FTX. You've got to point at the Maxine Waters and whoever else is helping to cover up for this guy. Because the hearing is probably more about that than it is even about FTX itself. Because that's the core of the problem. These people were working behind the scenes. This guy was going in the White House. He was meeting with Congress. She was blowing him kisses. He was meeting with the CFTC, the SEC. The problem, FTX is apparently a fraud, okay? But they were meeting with him and planning with these people. These people, they knew what was going on. They had to. So the real core of the problem is corruption. Warren, it's time to start calling out the corruption, not what the end game, not what eventually happens because of the corruption. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that this story is a corruption story. This is not. That's what ETHgate is. Aren't you seeing a pattern here? This story is not about FTX. It's about a government that has completely been corrupted. And if the good guy, and look, I think Warren Davidson's one of the good guys, but now's not the time to be a good guy in name only and be a nice good guy, an understanding good guy. Let's just make sure we maintain some decorum. It's time to throw the decorum out the freaking window and put these people on blast publicly. If you don't, the country's lost. We don't need milquetoast congressmen that are good guys. We need brawlers at this point that are good guys.